Today, this video will be done a little differently. I'll be splitting it up into two sections for the most part and target those sections for the video. As you guessed from looking at the thumbnail, the topic of this video will be Yuji Itadori, specifically talking about how I personally feel that he is overrated in terms of scaling. Specifically, since character-wise, I do think he is at the bare minimum an okay main character. I don't think he's truly extraordinary. He has been through quite the suffering and hardship, just like any other main character needs to do to develop, but just like other new gen protagonists, he lacks the energy of an actual MC. This is pretty much even known by the JJK community itself, since people portray Gojo Satoru as the main character more than Yuji even after his death, which I can't even truly blame them on, since it's very easy to find Gojo more enjoyable and entertaining than Yuji, since he's pretty much just like copy and paste Kakashi, but instead of being surpassed, the main narrative for him is that he is the strongest, something I touched up a little bit in my recent video. Now that I have touched up how I feel about him as a character in general, it's time to get to why people clicked on this video in general to find out why this guy thinks Yuji, Mr. Left Right Good Night, is overrated. Well, the first section we'll be going over is context. Now, what I mean by context is the scenario and situation and setting by how feats are played out to be in the manga. For an example, let's say Yuta beats Gojo, but the context is that Gojo is fatigued and has lost his affinity and his heart is pierced. You get what I mean? So with going over that, we can move on to the culling games before I get into the Shinjuku showdown. So at the end of the culling games, we get a showdown with Yuji fighting Sukuna after he takes over Megumi's body. Now Yuji doesn't do half bad against the Sukuna, although the context behind this is the fact that Sukuna's output is low, so he can't just outright kill Yuji. But Yuji does showcase a great display of physical capabilities against Sukuna, which I have no problem with. The problem starts when Maki joins in the fight and they double team Sukuna. What is my problem with this, you might ask? It's the fact that people in the community will say this is them going relative. I'll just make the assertion now that they are not going relative. There's a few things that indicate this. First, how Maki performs against Sukuna by herself. She's able to react to him and just handle herself on her own, and you could even argue that she is in a way carrying Yuji. It's also implied she was the bigger threat in general, and Sukuna pretty much just outright says it when Urarame focused cursed energy specifically at Maki, which is more implying she is a threat, or at least more of a threat than Yuji. Now, of course, someone could just say this could be Sukuna just hating on Yuji when he does in character, but I feel like he could be hating on Yuji and tell the truth at the same time. There's also just more evidence to justify this claim when Maki is just blatantly doing better than Yuji, and is Sukuna's main focus overall. So as far as culling games goes, I don't think he should scale to either of these two, and if he does, it would be at the lowest low end relativity to them. Now don't get me wrong, Yuji is strong, but the main point I do want to get across is that he is not that as strong as the con plays him out to be. But now we can finally move on to the actual important arc and the one that is the most glazed for Yuji. The Shinjuku showdown. The catalyst to all the bullshit with Yuji stands glazing the hell out of him. So after Sukuna's defeat, Gojo obtains after Gojo's defeat, Sukuna obtains his true form. Once again, Yuji and the anti-Sukuna squad the Sukuna squad team arrives to take him on. Now Yuji has trained for 3 months, so of course he is exceedingly stronger and has increased and learned new abilities. Now speaking about his performance against Sukuna and the context behind all of his scaling and feats, now why the context is very crucial to these instances in particular is because Sukuna under these circumstances is weakened and not taking the fight serious via Urarame's statements. And Yuta speaking about it, if Gojo didn't weaken Sukuna, they would have already been dead by now. But I will say, what makes Yuji so useful in this fight is his physical attacks attack the soul, which weakens Sukuna's CE output and his physical control decreases. While Yuji is also getting stronger as the fight goes on via the black flashes he lands, even as far as him awakening due to this. So in this context, Sukuna is progressively getting weaker and Yuji is progressively getting stronger. So it's hard to accurately gauge Yuji's strength, but due to the context I provided, one thing is clear, it's that Sukuna for a majority of the fight is not taking it seriously, even being progressively nerfed. He never felt in danger, is what I think what was happening. But of course, after a few black flashes, it would be disingenuous for me to say that he's not insanely stronger. But I do think Yuji also obtaining a good domain expansion in RCT is the main thing to the catalyst of him becoming stronger. Yuji fights and still struggles badly against a very weakened Sukuna, although I will give him credit, he has also been fighting the longest out of everybody besides Gojo, of course. But why I say Yuji is specifically overrated in this arc is because some, and I mean the bottom of the bureau people in the will compare that Yuji to Yuta in Gojo's body. I repeat, compare Yuji to Yuta in Gojo's body. Now mind you, I don't know what has gotten into people, but do they just think Yuta doesn't have Gojo's physicals anymore? Unless they think this Yuji can now be on par with Gojo on physicals, which I highly doubt they think. So I've came to the conclusion that the brain dead idiots that make these claims simply do it to either troll or just glaze Yuji to the top 3 in the verse. Yuta is still fighting in Gojo's body, the same body I was going relative to a peak Sukuna, and a way stronger Sukuna than the one Yuji was fighting in any instance. I already went over it in one of my past videos that Yuji is still not beating Yuta in his own body, but now that I have addressed the Yuji scaling and concept line, why his feats don't get him as high as people think, the question now raises, how strong is Yuji actually by the end of the manga? Now it's hard to accurately say, but I do think Yuji is definitely a strong character. You can't definitively get him anywhere due to him finding a unquantifiably weaker and fatigued Sukuna, but if I had to rank him somewhere, I'd probably say somewhere below Maki, since I just feel like she performs insanely good against Sukuna at a time where I personally think he was motivated. Since Sukuna says himself, Maki gave him something to prove by saying Maki piqued his interest more than everyone he's fought, including Gojo. So this would be a Sukuna with something to prove, which leads to his black flash on her, which she survived and blitzes Sukuna, cutting his arm off. So I just think her feats on Sukuna and how well she performs is definitely not something to be overlooked, since I do think she's just fast enough to outspeed Yuji, and she should be able to read Yuji's slashes easily, since even Sukuna remarks she's able to dodge his slashes, being able to read them better than the other sorcerers she's fought. So I definitely think that is where Yuji would stop, which is pretty impressive, still nothing to be overlooked. Again, this video, if anything, isn't to bash Yuji, but accurately scale him and clear up the fact that he isn't as strong as the comic makes him out to be. Although this does bring me to the end of my video, since I think I have said all I need to say and can conclude with the topic. Of course, I say in every video, if you guys have any thoughts or disagree with what I'm saying, you're free to go to the comment section. But if you liked the vid, I appreciate it if you liked and subscribe for more content like this. And without further ado, I bid you guys a farewell.